Hey, what's up guys? How are we doing today? Hope everyone's enjoying the sunshine. It's awesome. Right, welcome to another extremely dodgy commentary with a camera. This time, as you can see, it's in my face. Right, what you're seeing in the background is some gameplay from the Clash Mayhem playlist from last week. Really enjoying this game mode and I'm hoping that it will turn up a bit more often. Right, so what I want to talk about today is knowledge and a lack thereof, and ignorance, and how we come to be ignorant and how we come to have a lack of knowledge. Well, at least that's what I'm hoping to do. Now, I'll give you an example. I once had somebody try to tell me that only women suffer domestic abuse. Now, anybody with a bit of knowledge and who isn't ignorant will know that this simply isn't true. You know, men suffer from it just as much as women. It may not always be physical, but it happens. A lot of it's mental, and it can be physical because a lot of women think that the man won't hit back. And so this enables them to then, the women who are so inclined, to go to town. So it happens on an equal basis just as much, I find. You know, and I've known people this has happened to, you know, before people start questioning me. So again, that's where lack of knowledge comes into play, and ignorance. And this is an example of ignorance coming into effect because that's how we're told it is. You see adverts and everything, quite rightly, don't get me wrong, quite rightly, about how it's always, you know, it's the man that's the aggressor in these adverts. You see them on trains, buses, on telly, everywhere. I'm not saying that those adverts are a bad thing, but you know, there needs to be balance, I find. So that's how a lack of knowledge and that's how ignorance can come about, from a lack of balance. Another example I'll give you an example of is the war, for example, World War II. Let's go with that. Why am I bringing up wars and things? Because that's when ignorance and a lack of knowledge most come into play. Now, I was once told that Germany shouldn't win the World Cup because they started the war. Yep, I'm being serious. Somebody actually told me that. Now, I can only assume that they thought that the players in the German World Cup squad had somehow managed to come forward through time after starting World War II and acting like it was nothing to do with them. You'd have to make your own hypotheses on that, because I don't know. It's one of those things that really bugs me, because I think it's very important that you always have a balanced view of things, because it's important not to go too far one way or too far the other. And the reason for that is because if you don't have knowledge of both sides, or both sides of the story, then you can't make an informed decision. You might think you're making an informed decision, but you're not. The decision you're making is based on what you've been told, usually by others, and not questioning it at all in any way, shape, sense or form. You know, and for me, that's just not the way you do things. You should always question things. Now, I'm not saying go to school or work, whatever it is. I'm not saying you should go there and then immediately start questioning people who are trying to teach you. I'm not saying that at all. I'm saying about situations where, you know, more knowledge, you know, would light your way, would more up here, would light the way forward. So I'm not saying go and question your teachers, go and question your boss or whoever. I'm not getting in trouble with your school or your work because Yelp just said just told me to question things. No, that's not quite what I mean. And and talking about wars and things, I once saw on Facebook quite recently actually somebody claiming to be a history teacher trying to compare Donald Trump to Adolf Hitler. No, I'm not joking. Now, yeah, I agree Donald Trump's a little eccentric. You know, that's That's well documented. Yeah, and he's got a silly haircut, but I can't talk. What can you say? But to compare him to a mass murdering dictator, I think is maybe going a little far. You know, that really does show a lack of understanding and a lack of knowledge about what actually happened during the war. Now, I'll give you another example of, I don't know whether it's lack of knowledge, stupidity or what, but I actually saw somebody try to say that the Holocaust never happened, despite the fact that there's a lot of evidence out there to prove it did. You know, and that, I find that astounding. I don't know whether it's stupidity, attention seeking, or just, yeah, just ignorant. And what you have to ask yourself is, where does this come from? Is it lack of education? Is it upbringing? I'd say maybe both, and I don't mean a lack of education by somebody not going to school. I mean a lack of education by somebody just completely not willing to learn, and somebody so indoctrinated in the ways of before that they can't process anything new or anything that might question their beliefs. And that says to me there's a lack of balance, a lack of knowledge. Now, I've always said that in order to light the way for the future, you should always learn from the past. You should always study that past, appreciate it, learn from it, so you don't make those mistakes in the future. And I think, you know, so what I would suggest to you guys is always learn. However you can. Google things, just be careful what sites you go on, because we all know there's then slightly more extreme sites, shall we say. Go down the library, read a book. You know, I was encouraged to read a lot when I was younger, and I found it's really given me a lot of knowledge and a lot of understanding and a lot of balance. You know, and that's what I find is important, and I think could be important for you too. So just think on that. You know, take it in, and always, no matter what, never stop learning and never stop having balance. Alright guys, I'm out of here. Take care.